am the new chair of the Jewish Family Life Committee, and I just want to explain what Erica's doing, because it was in an email, but I just want to go over it in case everyone doesn't understand that the committee's actually quite more substantial than this. And about when we put out that Survey Monkey, about half of us could meet during the day, and half of us were sweeping the nation, who knows, so. Anyway, so that's what this is going to be. So the next one most likely is going to be in the evening, and I may or may not see you guys, but hopefully we'll see some of the teachers, which for our purposes is very important, which is why we wanted to be able to include everyone. It's really, we didn't want only teachers or people involved in our programming. We really wanted a wide perspective. One of the other people that is on our committee is Marilyn Weiner, who was supposed to be here, but at the last minute had to change for a family obligation. So, and they're donors to the committee, and I thought that was important. So we really have a wide breadth, and I think that's important. I would tell more about people's story, but that's what I'm going to have you do in a few minutes after the Devar Torah. So I just again want to say thank you, and I'm going to introduce Amy Bergman, as I think needs no introduction in this room, and take it away, Amy.
Okay, thank you. So thank you for asking me to do the Devar. That's so nice.
I didn't want to do it.
So
just kidding.
The way I think of the parasha has kind of changed as this job has grown and the department has grown. And now, whenever I talk about the parasha, I immediately go and think about PJ Library, which is kind of my go-to. So just in case you didn't know, one of the resources that we use with teachers and rabbis and cantors and family programmers in the community when I work with them to plan programs throughout the community is this chart, and it's every PJ Library book sorted by parasha. So it's a great handy dandy tool that I use with them if that helps them in whatever they're doing, whether it be a classroom experience or a family program or an event. This is one of the tools. There's also a handy dandy chart that sorts the PJ Library books by Jewish value, which is also great. And then there's a separate chart that sorts them by age appropriateness. So I just thought that might be something you didn't know. And so when I looked up, our parasha this week is Bo, and one of the books listed as one of the good books to use with this parasha is this book. I just thought I'd share this with you a little bit before I talk about the parasha. And this is a wonderful PJ Library book. And so if I was talking about Parasha Bo in a congregation, I would say, here are the list of books that from PJ Library. If you wanted to incorporate a PJ Library book into what you're doing regarding Parasha Bo, this would be one of the books. I just thought this is how I think, so this is what we do. So, Parasha Bo. Actually, the word bo means come. More particularly, the term is interpreted as meaning enter or penetrate. Moses was commanded to come and approach Pharaoh. Moses shrank at this command. He was daunted by the charge to confront evil at its very core. To reassure him, God said to him, come, as in, come with me. Not go or go alone, but come with me. God promised him that if he would face Pharaoh, he would face it with him. This command thus requires personal initiative and simultaneously promises that such initiative will be rewarded by God's assistance. Moses was required to act on his own, but not independently. God would support his efforts. We have the power to persevere in our mission. When we do, we find out that we are not alone. God is with us, supporting us in our efforts. Today at this table are those who have been asked to come, not alone, but with us, with CJE, to move forward in our mission to serve the families of this community. It is our turn not to be daunted by the challenges, but to be energized, and I am sure we too will not be alone, and God will be with us in our efforts.
Thank you, that's great.
You are welcome.
Susan said this was her bat mitzvah.
Oh, Mazel
Want to
Tov.
add anything?
A long time ago.
How was that for you?
Long time. You remember that.
That's how young she is. She got her bat mitzvah. So welcome again, everybody. We're going to do a little icebreaker activity, and Amy and I were kind of brainstorming about this, and we thought I really want to get to know you a little bit, and I know Susan very well, but I really don't know your stories so well. I don't know if anyone knows mine. So that's, since we're not just PJ Library, but PJ Library is a significant part of what we do, I thought that we would do Tell Us Your Story. So I'm going to start with Amy, because she's eating. No, we'll skip.
No, you can do it.
Okay.
This is good practice. I was actually just asked to tell my story this coming April at a national conference. And the story that they asked me to tell about my Jewish experience was the story about how this job has impacted my life. So this is a good practice, so I think I'm going to use this as just an example. You're pausing? You have director of this agency. And he said to me, I see you out the window of CJE in carpool line every day sitting here for 2 hours. Why are you sitting here? And I knew Steve because Steve used to work with me at the JCC. And I said, oh, my baby's napping, it's just easier, and I'm just sitting here and it's actually very quiet and I'm happy and content. He says, wow. He says, how about tomorrow, instead of sitting here, you come and have coffee with me inside, bring the baby in the stroller. Hi, Liz. And I said, wow, that's really nice of you. Do you have time in your day to stop like that to have coffee? And he says, absolutely, I'd love to reconnect. Okay, next day, I park in carpool, I put the baby in the stroller, sleeping, and I go inside CJE, and I'm in my mom jeans and my t-shirt, and I walk into Steve's office to meet him for coffee, and in the room are 2 other people, and unbeknownst to me, it's a full-blown interview. And in that moment in time, I was extremely nervous and put off, but in the end, he knew that that was the only way to get me into the room, and he knew to re-engage me into the Jewish community, I would have to be pushed, and he knew that dangling the PJ Library would really speak to me and who I am. And so from there, I became, brought back into this world and brought back into something that I love, and I'm grateful, but that is my story.
I did not know that.
You did not know that story? That's why I'm always fearful now when I'm asked to join somebody for coffee. I always ask, so who's at the coffee? Who's at the coffee? Is there something you'd like to discuss at the coffee?
That's funny.
So that's my story. So
That's a great story.
we're telling our stories, Liz. You have a great story. I can't wait.
Which one? Well, the story I asked is your Jewish story, so it could be,
okay.
Your
Got it.
background, but
Got
she
it.
gave this, which was interesting.
Wow, I didn't come prepared for my Jewish story. Let me think. Well, I don't think I came prepared, but that's fine too. A lot of good has happened
Neither
in
had
my
she, and look what
well,
happened.
a lot has happened in my life that's very good unprepared, so this is just fine, truly. I'm Deborah Stakler, obviously, and my Jewish story. I was raised in a very Jewish home by my parents. My mother was raised by her Russian grandparents and lived with a whole slew of Russian uncles and whatever. Her first language was Yiddish, and whatever else was thrown in there, she Americanized as she started school. So my upbringing was from my mother, and our home was very observant. And in those days, observant meant, well, we ultimately belonged to a conservative synagogue, but observant meant the first 2 days and the last 2 days of every holiday. And we never went to school on those days. And on Shabbat, we didn't write or use a scissors or cut. I mean, it was just that we observed the way she was brought up, and that was the way I knew. And then I advanced through my education, and I became a family counselor in private practice. I married, have children, and I'm in a second marriage, a wonderful second marriage, very long term. And we have 10 grandchildren, and I'm now part of today's culture, which is very different than the one that I was raised in. And in moving to Florida, excuse me, full time, I had a transition period of finding myself, and it wasn't going to be the country club life, because that's what brought us here, because my husband's a golfer, but I'm not. And little by little, in a wonderful way, I got involved in the JCC. And the way was, I was at a beauty parlor, and I was reading a book, and the woman next to me was reading the same book. And we got talking, and turned out she was very involved in the JCC, and it was right before their Kravis big opening luncheon. And she asked me to be her guest at her table. And from that, I've been involved with the JCC all these years. And as probably lots of you know, the JCC not only is a hard-working place as a volunteer, it's an evolving place. My main interests as a Jewish woman are staying current with today's culture and engaging Jewish families in any way possible that works. And that also means being open to all the different kinds of marriages and non-marriages that we find ourselves involved with in our religion. I now belong to a synagogue with my husband, and which is more recent. One of my most satisfying experiences was working with Eric and Amy and the Grandparent Circle through Commission for Jewish Education. I would say that that, along with PJ Library, have been my two most exciting ventures. I've chaired and continue to, but this is my last year, the book festival for the JCC. And I don't know, I could go on and on, but that's me. I'm very passionate about being Jewish, and also being Jewish in a way that is not alienating in today's culture.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, hi everyone, it's my turn. I come from a family of people who have lived through the Holocaust. Most of my family comes from Poland. And as a result of that, my family was never much practicing. Though the values were very important and are still very important, the temple was not really something that they were looking into. And I think that I've grown up in Europe. My accent is French, in case you
Lovely.
have. Thank you. I would go as a young child in something equivalent to the JCC, but then when I was 10, we moved and it stopped. And by some kind of, I don't know what, I married a Jewish doctor, but then my Judaism, I was just focused on my work and my career, and it sort of got still there, still the values, but not much more. And then we moved here, and Joshua got to go to the JCC preschool, and there I fell in love totally, completely, just a loving environment. And that was my first and most important contact with the PJ Library. And for many years, for me, the CJE is PJ Library. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but that's just the way. That's just the way it still is. And I got more involved in the JCC. I became a board member of the JCC. I'm no longer a board member of the JCC. My term was up, and I'm very excited to join this board and help. I think this is the PJ Library is a fantastic tool. I want us to be very open and reach to people who are not belonging to temples, who are not in marriages or very active in there. I think it should be very inclusive because, of course, values, Jewish values are for me very important.
Thank you. Liz, we're taping this because of, a good part of the committee can't meet during the day, so they're going to get a link. And then the next meeting might be in the evening, and then
We'll rotate it.
But
There will always be a link.
Fast forward over this, please.
What?
Okay.
Don't skip the highlight of your life. Don't skip it.
I won't.
No.
I
You know
taught
what it
in
is.
Shapiro.
And
Becca. I'm Becca Goldstein. I was hired to teach Becca
That's
Goldstein.
correct. Thank you.
Okay.
in that order.
My Jewish story. I did a whole Devar Torah on this. This was my speech at my bat mitzvah. That was in January 1st, 2011.
Wow.
So, where to start? I'll start as far back as I can comfortably. My mother was Roman Catholic. My dad was Episcopalian. My uncle at the time was dating a Jewish woman who was lost from her religion and was practicing to be Unitarian. My parents thought it was a cool idea. So, although I had 4 siblings that were Roman Catholic, they raised me Unitarian. So, I was raised in a Unitarian house that did nothing. My father passed away when I was 4 years old, and a friend of my mother said, join the Jewish Center. They have tons of children's programs, and you don't have to be Jewish to join. So at 4, I entered my first program, From Russia with Love. I met a little girl, Rebecca. She asked if she could be my best friend. I said yes. I slept at her house that night, and we were inseparable. And from that moment on, I spent every Jewish holiday, every Passover at her home. Starting somewhere around 5th grade, this is when I was the president of the Club 35 club at the JCC. I asked my mother if I could be Jewish, and she said, you're just saying that because all your friends are Jewish, and you go to their homes for Hanukkah, and it's all very fun. Then I waited until I was in high school, and I was attending JCC camp, sleepover camp, Lakeland in Buffalo, and I said, can I be Jewish? Oh, you're just saying that because you go to a Jewish camp. And then I left, while still in high school, let me back up, while I was in high school, I asked the director if I could join BBYO, and he said, you can't. And I said, I promise, I just need, all my friends are here, this is my, so he didn't quite tell people that I wasn't Jewish, and I was that girl that all these Jewish parents sent their boys to BBYO to meet a nice Jewish girl, and they So then high school ended, and I went to college, and I became a BBYO advisor. And again, turned to my mother and asked if I could be Jewish, and she's like, you're just saying that because of all the reasons I've already told you. Then I dated a number of boys. The one non-Jew I dated was Jeff Goldberg. Go figure. His mother was not Jewish, but his father was, and he was non-practicing, and they were Catholic for all intents and purposes, but who knew? So I dated a boy very seriously for about 3 years. It was pretty serious, and the day we broke up, I was devastated, and I started really asking about becoming Jewish to my mother, and she's like, just forget about that. I have a guy for you, Liz. He is handsome. He is a dentist. He is gorgeous. I said, well, is he Jewish? And my mother said, newsflash, Liz, neither are you. So I went to a local temple and started meeting with a rabbi who said, as long as you teach my children's program, we'll see how this works. So I went through started my conversion process, and about a good 6 months into it, I met my current husband. And when we met, I said, I just want you to know, as things were getting more serious, I converted, so you don't have to worry about that, because that seemed to come up a lot. And he said, to what? Because he assumed I had been the front desk girl at the Jewish Center. I had worked at all the Jewish camps. He had seen me in the basket room at the Jewish Center. So he didn't quite get the newsletter
But you
that
hadn't been there.
I hadn't been Jewish. So that's my Jewish story, and we were at a conservative synagogue in Buffalo, and we haven't changed, except for when we came here, we actually started going to a conservative synagogue and realized that we were actually Reform. So and the line that we get most now is from a girlfriend is, ever since you joined that Reform synagogue, you're so much more religious.
Oh, that's funny.
I think it's because I want my children, with all the, as you were mentioning when you were speaking, I want the odds of a person marrying someone in their Jewish faith is getting to be smaller and smaller every year. There is, a 93% of unaffiliated Jews, and I just want my children excited and proud and happy to be Jewish. One of the most poignant moments that I still go back to is your Shabbat program that you led, Amy, where you were saying, it doesn't matter if it's pizza in the car before you do things. It's all about the traditions. It's that blessings of a skin knee. It's that idea that you have something to hold on to. And that's what I want to give my children. Just something that they're excited about. If we don't go to synagogue on Fridays, they think they're in trouble. They think, well, what are we doing instead? What can we obviously, and are they sitting at the bima, looking up at the rabbi, waiting for his next words? No. Probably they're reading their own book, they're talking to their friends, they're walking in the halls, but they feel sad if they're not there. And they want to be there, and that to them is, they have their foot in the door. Like, Judaism is fun. It's something they're excited about, something that they have pride in. And when Jonah meets strangers, I think one of the first things he tells people is that he's Jewish. He's excited and proud of being Jewish, and that's what that was my goal since I was little.
That's a great story.
That's my story.
You were at Sinai.
I was at Sinai.
You were at Sinai,
Yeah.
if you wanted it all that.
I was, it's funny because my girlfriend was at Sinai, but we actually joined Bethel, and that was.
No, the real Sinai. Your soul was
The
at
real
Sinai.
Sinai, yes.
Yes.
They say,
Sorry.
and people converted,
Yes.
whatever their soul was at Sinai.
Yes.
Yes,
you
it's
are.
true.
Yes.
It's true. Yes.
Never
Did you
heard that
check
about you. I've known Liz a long time. I actually was way more mainstream. I grew up on Long Island. I was very close to my father's mother, who's, my father's brought up Orthodox. His mother was a big influence on me. So we went to her house, and on Shabbat we didn't cut and we didn't draw, and we went to shul and we came back and we washed the dishes and we all took a nap. So it's, that's Shabbat from
Something
my
Susan
grandmother's.
still does to this day.
Yes. And I guess I'll make mine short. I guess the thing that I can say about being Jewish is last night my daughter forwarded me, who's now 22, going to be 23 in July, forwarded me an article from the New York Times Magazine, which I'm sure, I don't know if you guys have seen or not, but it's about an Orthodox Jewish woman who is a sex therapist. And I highly recommend you all to read it because it's fascinating, New York Times article. And basically it was talking about how the ultra-Orthodox women, a lot of them don't even understand sex at all. And because of that, there's a lot of issues in the community because the women don't want to have sex, and they have to have sex to have the baby. So anyway,
I am Orthodox.
This article was very fun. I mean, it was funny. I mean, some of it was funny. You're laughing out loud, but my daughter she really wanted to know what I thought about it. We were talking about it, and she was speaking about conversations that she's had about the role of women in Judaism. We actually belong to an Orthodox synagogue. We're not Orthodox, but we belong to one. And Becca's very close to the rabbi, and she has a lot of conversations with him. She took Jewish studies classes in college, and so I guess my story is that 20-something years later, I have a daughter who's still very interested in being Jewish, and she goes to the synagogue of the rabbi's brother in Soho, and so that's, I think, a good thing. So, I mean, this community's been very good to us, and I think that's good.
Yep. Thank you. Geez, I have a little bit of all your stories. Well, maybe not yours. My father is a survivor, was born in Europe, and my mother was born to Russian parents and spoke Yiddish. Both of them spoke Yiddish first, didn't speak English till she went to kindergarten, and that's how she became Canadianized. And I grew up in a very Zionistic, very Yiddishkeit-full family, spoke a little Yiddish, still to this day use Yiddish expressions. And we did go to a synagogue though, and we went for the main holidays in Purim, whatever I remember, costumes. But we didn't light candles. My parents grew up kosher, we didn't keep kosher, none of that. And I remember though leaving the synagogue and listening to the news of the Yom Kippur War and running out to find a radio. I still can't figure out why we needed to buy a radio, because we were listening to the radio in the car, but that's my memory. And I was confirmed at Temple Bethel on Flagler. I was a kindergarten teacher at Bethel on on Flagler, but I really didn't know much. And fast forward one marriage, and that marriage back to a new marriage, and the second marriage, he's much more observant and learned than I am. And my kids were starting at Meyer, and the director before Steve Schauder was Barbara Steinberg, who had been the principal at Meyer, and I asked her if she would teach me a little something. And so I had a class with a very good friend of ours, ended up joining, and I really got a little kind of Judaism 101. I had already learned how to keep kosher. I went to an Orthodox friend's home and learned that, but I really learned a lot. And Barbara and my joke was always, when I would say something that was actually somewhat knowledgeable, I would say, thanks to the Friedman Commission. And that wasn't even that. I would say, thanks to the CJE. And so I was out there promoting it, and next thing I knew, I was president. I don't know. And
I was on that board.
Yes. And I go to the same Orthodox synagogue that Susan does. Also not Orthodox. Most of you probably know Palm Beach Synagogue. Most people aren't Orthodox that go there, but it's a very warm and Hamish a place. And really, that's my story. I have all of it. I have the Holocaust survivor, the Yiddishkeit, and the somewhat more religious part of my life. That's it. Thank you. Do you want to go?
It's up to you.
Yes.
Yes.
Turn.
I'm from the city
you
her
can-
mother-in-law's from. I know that.
That's true. Very true. So,
No way.
all the way over there. All the way over there.
Where's the Zoom on this?
So I'm Erica Simon, and I am the Jewish Family Life Associate. I work with Amy, and these are good bookend stories. So I was sitting one day in carpool. It's absolutely true. I was sitting outside of Amy's window when Lexi was in kindergarten. I only have one child, and at Meyer Academy. I only have one child, and she goes to Meyer Academy. When she went to kindergarten, the kindergartners get out about 10 minutes before the rest of the students. And since I didn't have to wait for anyone else for carpool, if I was there first, I'd be able to leave first and get her and go home. So I was always very early, and that same spot apparently outside of Amy's window. And so I used to go in. I had known her very not well, but from Temple Beth to our preschool, and I was sitting and chit-chatting with her a few times in the afternoons, and eventually when I would go and chit-chat, I would see that she had a desk full of things that she looked like she could use help with. So I offered to start helping, and that volunteering turned into a little more volunteering.
And then a coffee.
I didn't get coffee. A little more volunteering. Eventually, Steve was able to find a little bit of money to pay me for a couple of my hours of work, and eventually a little bit more, and there was a little more work to do, and it turned into obviously a lot more than that. And so for several years, we actually, in the old building, shared an office, our desks. Yeah. We sort of put a little table in off the side of her desk and threw a computer on it, and I crunched in there, and I think that those of you who know us, I think we make a really great team. One little funny aside that I do think is really important is that, unbeknownst to us until we started hanging out in those afternoons and talking, let's see, our parents had gone to high school together at Miami Beach Senior High School. We had gone to the same Jewish day school, although we only had one overlapping year, sorry. And so we had so what's really actually really nice about that, though, is besides making that connection, we have a shared history, a very similar, and we have a shared history, and we understand things a lot in the same way because I guess of the way we grew up. And we went to a Jewish day school at a Reform synagogue. I think for both of us, music, besides books and stories and reading, music was a very, very big part of our life, I think, and Jewish overnight camp, and those two things are two things that, other than PJ Library, and in addition to, that really shape and are things that we would say speak to us very readily about our Judaism and for our children. And the additional connection is now between the two of us, all three of our girls. Actually, this is the first year, but all three of our girls, her two and my one, will be going to Camp Coleman together. And my brother went there, Amy went there. There's a lot of just really great, wonderful stuff.
Our stories overlap.
Our stories overlap, and I have been gone from the department for a little while, and I'm very excited to be back for as much of my time as I can possibly spend. We work really well together, and I'm looking forward to supporting all of the efforts of the committee and all of you, because I think it's really important work. Thank you.
And on that note, I'm going to turn it back to Amy, who is going to tell us more about what we do in the Jewish Family Life Department.
And really, the reason why I'm telling you what we do is so that as we move forward and collectively we talk about where we want to go, and we get your input as to where we want to take this in all the different directions, you have a baseline. Some of you may know bits and pieces of it. Some of you may think you know the whole story. So Debbie kind of left this to me as to how I wanted to do this. I've been asked to do this so many times and in so many different ways, and it's really hard to constantly find a creative and dynamic way to really share with you everything that the Jewish Family Life Department does. So one time at an annual meeting, I did a game show version, which was door number 1, door number 2, door number 3, to explain the 3 areas and services we provide, which would be the concierge services, the consultation services, and the collaboration services. I have done video presentations about the department that are available on YouTube, in case you're wondering. So the last time I was asked to do this was actually at a new board retreat. The CJE has a lot of new board members, which is really exciting, but the challenge in that is to really bring the new board members up to speed with everything CJE does. So each department was asked to present to new board members some kind of orientation. And I knew I couldn't just reuse something that I had used in the past because some of those people may have heard it or not, and I wanted it to be new and fresh. So here's what I did. Erica and I sat down and we kind of a la what we know and what we love, we wrote a story. So we actually wrote a book about the Jewish Family Life Department. Then we took the book and we translated the book into a story walk, which is something else that our department does with PJ Library books, is we turn them into these story walks that are outdoor experiences of a book where you go from step to step to step with a page of the book in each place. So we turned the story of the department into a story walk, and we took the board members on a indoor story walk in the building, going from room to room, reading the story as we went, and setting up vignettes of each part of the story. to give them the whole picture and experience of the department. So, that seemed to work really well, and people really loved it. I'm not going to take you on a story walk today, but what I am going to do is I think it would be good enough if I just shared the story with you. So the story of our department is, we called it Cold Tove, It's All Good. And it pretty much, from beginning to end, tells the story of the Jewish Family Life Department, which initially, which you may or may not know, when I was brought in for that coffee, was just going to be a program of the JCC, of the CJE. PJ Library was just going to be something that the CJE did for this community. I was only brought in at 10 hours at the time. And so this is kind of the story of what that has developed into. So, Kol Tov, it's all good. Once upon a time in the Greater Palm Beaches, the Friedman CJE launched PJ Library, a free program which sent Jewish books and music to local children each month. More than 1,000 families enjoyed these books and thought they were good, and began to love the Friedman CJE too. Now that these families were reading Jewish stories and learning about the holidays, they wondered, where can I go with my children to expose them to some fun Jewish experiences? Where should I send them to preschool? The Jewish Family Life Department professionals were right there for them on the phone, in person, or on Facebook, answering questions, leading them to our community partners, including the local synagogues, schools, and JCCs. Relationships were built, and the families and the organizations thought it was good. Next came PJ Library Tot Shabbat programs, family engagement programs, public space events, holiday celebrations, and more. Each one helping making more dynamic and fun programs and events happen in our community with the help of the Jewish Family Life team. But how could we make it even better? How could the Jewish Family Life team work with our community partners to provide even more engaging and exciting learning opportunities and programs for these families? This is when the Jewish Family Life team joined forces with our Friedman CJE Professional Development and School Services Department to create traveling curriculum kits. Flat Joseph, Sammy Spider, Bim and Baum, and Mazel, the Shabbat puppy, were created with interactive pieces and curriculum enhancements to travel around our community, creating excitement wherever they went. And so, our Jewish Family Life team continues their work every day, consulting with our partners, whether in person, on the phone, or via email, providing resources, expertise, and guidance, helping them achieve their own goals, all while connecting families to Jewish life and learning. This story has no end. It goes on forever and has a message that will touch generations to come. And it's all good. So that's just kind of like our little story to show how one thing, PJ Library is just the tool. It's just the carrot that we dangle, that we capture a family. And then it's about connecting that family to all the Jewish life and learning experiences in our community. And we've done that in so many different ways, shapes, and forms. Working with our partners. So I know that's pretty broad stroked, but in your binders, under Good to Know, is kind of all of the good to know, and it's kind of your homework stuff, where you can see more details about this Kol Tov story. And as we get deep into talking about the future and the planning, you'll be able to really use some of this information. We put them in sleeves so that you can pull them in and out, and also some of them open up booklet style, and some of them are just one sheets, okay? But that's kind of like our story. That one there is more of a breakout of all the different initiatives and things that we do.
Can I add to it?
Yes.
Okay, it took me a long time to figure this part out. So Amy's gonna help me, and I'm not, like, almost embarrassed to say it. But everybody has the mistake, I think everybody has the mistake that I had from the beginning. So a lot of people will call her, a synagogue or a program, and say, Amy, we are having a lot of kids come. Can you come read a story? Or do you have somebody can come and read a PJ Library book? And Amy will explain that it's actually the other way around, that we're not a story provider, we're a people provider. We get the kids and the families, and we engage the kids and the families and help bring them to, you know, where they would like to be. So she says that she'll help them plan a program that would be interesting for kids and her families to come. She'll post it on Facebook, and she will help get the PJ families that would be interested. Maybe they live near that particular synagogue, maybe they have friends at that synagogue, maybe that's a good time of day for them, whatever it is, that she will help get those kids there. And I really had to be hit over the head like 3 or 4 times with this information to really understand that I was putting the cart before the horse, and that it really, what she does is much, much broader and much more significant. And I, on a different level, I used to do this with teen work, and the Jewish Teen Initiative was founded to do the same thing, to have programming to help feed the teens in the community out there. And it just, when I related it to the same way, that I could figure out what she's trying to do. So I'll give you a quick example because I know it personally. Last Sunday, I was invited to go to a program in Boynton Beach. And it turns out it was 5 minutes from my house at the Bettner Farm, which I have passed many times and never knew what they had going, well, because I'm not in that age group, but what they have going on Sundays. And the Federation contacted Amy, and it was a whole collaborative effort between the Next Gen, who are the parents of the Federation's Next Gen program, which is our parent body, and the PJ, and we had 5 synagogues.
And the JCC.
So 100 people had signed up to come in advance. And another 150 showed up, even though it actually was more expensive. 150 extras, so there were 250 people, lots of kids and families, everybody just a couple years older than my kids. It was so great. And they went on a hayride, they picked strawberries, they met with friends and were talking, and they were mining for gold or something, and they were, and then they had a Tu B'Shvat Seder with a great piece of education, and the weather was perfect, and it just was a great day, and people got to learn. I went on one of the hay rides, as Amy had suggested. She went on the first one, I went on the next one. And, what?
I kind of pushed you.
And I said, and I got on there and I said, who gets PJ Library books? And the kids got out of their seats jumping up and down. They were so excited and screaming, and then we were talking about PJ, and it was just great, and parents were telling us how much they love it. And this was one of those collaborative whole community events. So it's much more than just sending out the books and coordinating the books. It's really reaching those families, helping them come to other Jewish experiences, and we're just very fortunate to have Amy and Erica.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming. And as committee members, you will all be invited to come whenever you can to certain community events that we do. There's about 30 to 40 collaborative events that happen in this community
We have the
every
list
year.
for you to sign up for which 20.
Yeah. No, I think it's really great. It's great to the exposure. It was great that Debbie was there in her PJ Library t-shirt. As a lay leader, it was great exposure for CJE. It was great for our partners to see that we had lay leadership there. It was great for families to see PJ Library was there. Our goal is, as always, to connect families to all of our Jewish partners, and also a huge goal, which is something we haven't really totally gotten into, is I want families to connect to each other. Because when families meet other Jewish families, then they do together Jewishly. And that's what the research has shown, we know to be true. And so in the work that we do with our collaborative partners, I try to encourage every rabbi, cantor, Jewish programmer, preschool director, not just to create a great family program, but to have a component of that program where families can meet other families. So we'll talk more about that.
You probably know the exact number, but in order for someone to feel like they belong, I think they need to be connected to three other people. And
Yeah.
once you are connected to 3 people, then you feel a sense of belonging.
Where's that come from?
An article that my rabbi shared with me.
A long
Thank you.
time ago.
That's okay, I've heard it before, just,
So that's a very good segue to the next thing, which is the goals of the Jewish Family Life Committee. And they really can be broken up into two different categories. There's only two in the first category, which is things which Amy alluded to, which are the things that we can do as individuals when we're out there. You know, we talk about a program, or you get some information from Amy about a program that's going on. If it's possible for you, if you know someone who might be interested, it's at your synagogue, you want to put things out, it's to promote. That's part of what, when you're on a committee, you're there to help promote the program. If it's a day or an event that you would like to come to, that's available to you, your participation is always, you know, wanted, needed, etc. And to, in that capacity, to serve as an ambassador for what we do, because we are a really well-kept secret, as most of you know, because we're behind the scenes. These things that we do are out there, but that PJ is definitely out there, but a lot of what we do is behind the scenes, and people really don't know about it. So, you know, if you go to a synagogue and there are kids there, you know, you can ask, you know, talk to the parent and say, oh, do you get the PJ Library books? And that's something that we can do. The other goals, and these are in your little wonderful binder, the other goals are really things that we will do together as a committee, like act as a liaison with the synagogues, and a lot of it is supporting Amy and Erica. A lot of this is done by professionals, but some of it we're going to do together. There's going to be, at the end of this year, there's going to be a strategic plan that the commission is going to be doing, because we have a new director who's been amazing, and we're moving forward. And part of what we're doing, and why, as Amy said, we're giving the background, is so that we can, you have to know what we've done and what's working to be able to say, this is important, I want this aspect to definitely, I think it should continue. This aspect's not so effective, this is what I see. And as a group, we're gonna discuss and come up with a vision and put forward what we recommend for the strategic plan aspect of the Jewish Family Life Committee. So that aspect's really important. Having input on the development plan as far as, you know, how much money we think that we might wanna raise for this. You know, that's not our responsibility, that's the development department, but we'll have input in anything that touches on Jewish family life. That's our domain. So you can read this at your own leisure, but just to understand, there's our individual role, there's our group role. It sounds daunting, but it really is not. And Amy and I will make it so easy.
And fun. We're gonna have
You like to have
fun.
fun.
Yeah, we will have fun.
So, so that is us, that's our expectation. I hope that you will come to as many meetings as you can, so that it will, or at least if you can't, to watch the link and give input, so that way when we come to that strategic plan, it will be effective. Nothing is worse, I've done this many times, when you're on a committee and it's a different person shows up every time, and then by the time you have to make a decision, people don't really know what's going on. So that's why it's really important that we stay up to date. And if it means you want to have a coffee with Amy or myself and Erica, then please, you know, feel free to call us any time. And I'm turning it back to Amy for our upcoming events and grant opportunities.
Okay, so there's a lot of wonderful opportunities coming up that I wanted to just mention. We didn't want to overwhelm you at the first committee meeting, but the timing is such. As you all know, we are on a fiscal calendar that's July 1 to June 30th, and usually planning and decisions are made in springtime for the upcoming year. And so, being that it's January, you know, there's some things I just want to make mention, because between now and June, there's going to be things that we're going to have to decide for next year. So I just wanted to introduce a couple of things to you, and then I want you to marinate, and then we're gonna come back and discuss. Coming down the pike, the Harold Grinspoon Foundation, which is the foundation that funds PJ Library and other initiatives, Jewish initiatives, including camp initiatives, and Birthright, and many other things, is going to be offering grants. There is one in particular grant opportunity that is a implementing partner grant. So we, the Commission for Jewish Education, are the implementing partner for this community for PJ Library. So being that we will be offered the opportunity to apply for a grant for specific programming moving forward. And I don't have specifics yet, it hasn't been released. It'll probably be between $10,000 and $15,000 that we could be awarded to do, not repeating, something new, something different that we haven't done before. We can apply for a grant. So once I get the specifics of the grant and the parameters and the guidelines, I will share that with you. It may be Debbie or I emailing you just because of timing. It may be that I'm gonna pull out my top 10 list of things I know we haven't been able to tackle yet because of money or financial restraints, and saying to you, here are the top 10 things we haven't even tackled yet, let's discuss at our next meeting. I just wanted you to know that that's coming down the pike because that's a really great opportunity. And the reason why the Grinspoon Foundation is doing this is because they're really seeing that in communities that have PJ Library, not very many of them do much more than book delivery or an e-newsletter. And we do. Luckily, we have our community partners and we are able to provide a lot of PJ programming in this community. But I do believe that there is still room and still some things that we could apply for this grant for, so you'll hear more about that. Secondly, if you look in your binder, there's a zip code sort page. So I just want to draw your attention, if it didn't glare out at you, which I'm sure it did when you glanced at it. Currently we have 1,200 children registered for PJ Library between the ages of 0 and 6. We have about 700 alumni that are older than 6 that we still communicate with and are captured in our system. But our current enrollment is 1,200, and if you look, you see half of them live in the south area of town. So that's something I always keep in mind, and that's why events like past Sunday Tu B'Shvat celebration at Bedner's Farm in Boynton Beach is so needed, especially in public spaces, because that's where our families live, very many of them, half of them. So having said that, I wanted to just throw out to you the whole idea of presence in the South. Obviously, we're seated right now in West Palm Beach in the central area of our Jewish community. We have a JCC in Boynton Beach in the south, and we have a JCC in the north end of town. And our day school is in the north end of town, and there are synagogues throughout. Okay, so having said all that, CJE and PJ Library is me. I'm 32 hours a week. And Erica, who right now is just very, very few hours a week, hopefully we will be getting more of her time. It's a very hard thing for us to really be present in the south end of town. I'll be down there on Monday again. You know, it's just a logistical thing, and it's hard. I have my ambassador people. There are some people on this committee that live in the south that are really our voice and our eyes and our ears in the south. I have Jewish professionals who work at the JCC who I speak to almost every single day and try to work with as much as possible. But this is something that I have always said, is that I would like there to be some way to have more of a presence in the South. So I could try and take my time and ask, you know, either the JCC or the Federation has space at the canyons and set up shop there and try to replicate what I have here equipment-wise there. It just doesn't seem very financially sound or reasonable. Not that I'm not willing to, but I'm just thinking this through. So there's one thing that just came across my desk that I want to just share with you for you guys to think about. It's a brilliant idea. So it's not my idea. Other PJ libraries and other communities that are spread out like us, we're 900 square miles. Did you know that? Our Jewish community and what I cover is 900 square miles. Have done something similar to this. I don't see the, do you have the copies of the, you just have one copy? Oh, okay. So I don't know if you're familiar. This is something called the Little Free Library. So in the Northeast mostly, it was started in the Northeast. You'll see outside on a street or in a neighborhood a little wooden house on a pole. And when people have books that they're done with, grown-up books, children's books, there's a door on this little house, and they put the book in, and people come on foot, walking or riding their bikes, and they borrow the book and they put a book back, and it's like this little free library. So in some PJ library communities, they have set up PJ library free little libraries. So I'm sharing this with you as just an idea. It's something that we could very easily replicate, set one up, put PJ library books in as a presence. It could be at the JCC, it could be at any Jewish place or not a Jewish place. It's not a lot of money. It's within budget that we have for this current year. When you work with the Little Free Library, because it's a nonprofit organization, you register your Little Free Library with a national registry. So Kansas City PJ Library has done one. There's been many other PJ communities that have set up these little libraries and seeded it with PJ books and flyers, you know, how to sign up for PJ Library. And it's a way to have some kind of presence in a place where you're not physically located. I'm just throwing it out. I'll pass this around just to show you some information about the Little Free Library. But I just want to share that with you, and also to have you start thinking about the whole South End and families who are there. I do try to make sure that our programming is heavy in the South. It is a lot of families. It is mostly families who are not super wealthy, you know, upper middle class. Obviously you get more bang for your buck to buy a home there. That's why families are there. I want to try to reach them where they are some more. So I wanted to make mention of this whole idea to get your feedback about it, you know, later on as we talk, and to keep your eyes open and ears open if you have other thoughts about families in the South. And I know that there are people on this committee who are not here who do live in the South, so if you could email me, that'd be great. So those are some of the things. There's also another great opportunity that I have a feeling our CJE president is going to make happen. The Harold Greenspoon Foundation has made it really, really, really attractive and inexpensive to expand your program. We go to age 6, to go to age 8, because the top end of PJ Library is age 8, and there are some communities in this country who go to age 8, and that really bridges your gap from preschool into what you hope would be religious school age, and to continue those Jewish conversations at home by giving them the books. And it's a different conversation with a 7 and an 8-year-old that you can have them with a 4 and a 5-year-old. And if we could find a way to go to age 8, it would be fantastic. So the Greenspoon Foundation is kind of like doing this discounted alliance grant that we would be eligible to apply for next year. It would mean that we would have to grow our budget to do so, because even though it's at a discounted rate right now, it costs CJE $40 a child per year for PJ. It would be a lot less than that to go to age 8 if we went to age 8. It would increase our enrollment by 400 a year, so we would have 1,600 children a year captured in our current programming. If and when we went to age 8, I'm just throwing this all out to you so that I know it's a lot of information, I'm sorry. If and when we went to age 8, it would make us eligible in the future to join a new program that's piloting right now. It's called PJ Our Way. PJ Our Way is a 9 to 11-year-old program that's mostly an online, self-selected. It's not as driven by the PJ professionals in the community. It's something that parents and children mostly do through an online. It's a combination of online books and sent books, but the children who are 9 to 11 have much more choice and interaction. It's being piloted right now in just a few cities and will be available nationwide only to communities who go to age 8. So when that is launched nationwide, we would be available to do the 9 to 11 program. Not really sure what the cost is to the community for that. That's still not being discussed. I'm just saying this out loud. If we went to age 8. So beyond the benefits of engaging more families and reaching them at a different level with different discussion by going to 8. It would then afford us the ability to participate in PJ Our Way. I'm just saying this all to you. The closest pilot program of PJ Our Way is Miami, is one of the pilot cities. You should know that Miami, Broward, Boca, and us in South Florida are 4 separate PJ Library communities. So those other 3 professionals who do my job there, I'm very close with, and we meet often as a South Florida cohort. And there are a lot of similarities and differences in the PJ communities, but I do have the ability to get all kinds of feedback and how are things going and what are the situations there, and also great ideas. We also share ideas and successes and failures. So that is also coming down the pike. So all of these ideas and thoughts and decisions will be something we will turn to you and ask for your input and thought on. But I wanted to just throw it out there because I want you to start thinking about it. And if you do have time, pjlibrary.org is the website where you can go and explore a little bit so that you feel really knowledgeable about all of these things. Okay? Good?
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any good and welfare other than thank you for coming to our inaugural meeting? Anybody?
Any good and welfare?
No?
My daughter made it to spelling bee.
Oh,
Yay!
Wow.
Today's
That's
my
great.
husband's birthday.
Yay,
Oh,
Brian.
wow, happy birthday. Please send
And
him
Monday is
a
Sam's.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
How
Wow.
old is she?
spelling bee or the
The
class?
school spelling bee.
Also, she's gonna go in
Youngest.
final,
Double-
yeah,
double
Monday.
digits?
Monday.
it's on Monday.
Monday morning.
The school, it's still the school one, Muriel.
The school wide.
Sorry,
The
23
school
blew
The
me away a
school
lot
So
more than-
she's.
Yeah.
She made it from the class
Yeah.
one to the school.
Crazy.
Gotcha.
Well, we're in there on Monday too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I
If
might-
you mind, put these in